deep in the wild card race. We're 1 game out, 2 games out. We're second or third in the wild card rankings. That this would really, really uplift things. But right now, I mean, I just feel, quite frankly, dejected.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's Game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs or Carl Crawford,
we are here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 6th season covering the Rays daily.
In every season, they've gone to the playoffs, but probably not in 2024. In the meantime, however, grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100.
Well, Ulises, we haven't had a lot of great Rays news over the course of this season and over the course of the last couple weeks, but maybe something padding the blows a little bit is the news that came out recently that one Junior Caminero, depending who you ask, one of the top 1, 2, 3 prospects in all of baseball, is officially getting the recall to the show. And what that means is Curtis Mead has been optioned back to AAA Durham. So tough time for Curtis Mead. But if you're a Rays fan, at least you should be excited, mildly excited, despite this team being middling, 500, and likely not going to the playoffs. You've got at least one player that you can hopefully hang your hat on the rest of the season and in the future, in what we hope will be a monstrous power hitter for years and years to come in this organization.
Incredibly exciting to see him being called up. You know, you just said there's not been a lot of things to be happy about as a Rays fan in 2024. And in my head, I quickly just Googled my brain and thinking, what has been good for the Rays in 2024? And I came up with a podium in the last, 24 seconds.
Okay.
Number 3. Junior Caminero being called up.
Okay.
That takes that 3. That takes the bronze. I know the Olympics were just over, but it's still relevant. It's still fresh kind of in our mind. So bronze.
What is your go-to Olympic sport? If you could only watch one Olympic sport, what would it be?
I would have to go with something I don't usually watch. Track and field is so cool. I mean, what those guys do, and women, it's just unreal how fast they are. It's just unreal.
You're talking about, well, yeah, I guess everybody, but the sprinters is exciting. The long distance is impressive. It's all pretty remarkable for sure.
Intense. Also gymnastics. I mean, if you're a guy, I think every guy would be like, we would all love to do the weightlifting or the rings. The rings is so badass.
Well, I thought you were going in a different direction by seeing the ladies in the leotards, but they are very, very acrobatic and athletic. And that actually probably is my go-to, is seeing all the flips, twists, and turns that they're able to do with their body. Frankly, basketball, I couldn't care less about, because we have basketball. It's so available. I like the niche sports that I'm not going to turn on ESPN on a Thursday, every month or every year. Once every 4 years, I'll tune into some gymnastics.
You know what? And I know it's not Winter Olympics, but curling, love curling.
Okay.
Love it. Anyway, bronze, Junior Caminero being up for the Rays this year. I think that's the 3rd biggest story for the Rays. Again, this is subjective. Taking the silver medal here, City Connect jerseys.
Okay.
Amazing. Silver medal. Awesome. gold medal, the deal for the stadium
Correct.
being finished, being completed, being voted and approved. That's kind of sad that those are our three best. I mean,
Right.
again, you can on the comments, please let me know if I missed something that is more worthwhile to be in the podium, but I think I nailed it.
No, I think you nailed it. You stuck the landing, as they say, and it's, I guess, somewhat unfortunate that none of your moments are really on the field. It's not like we're pointing out a key game-winning situation or an amazing series or an amazing stretch run.
Yeah.
It's all more or less off the field stuff. Now, Caminero eventually will do things on the field, but it's like announcements. those are the those are the three medal winners right there. Announcements.
Announcements. Yeah. So that's what tells you. But you know what? This bronze announcement, and for some people, it could be the gold. Caminero
Yeah.
hitting well since being back from that IL. 13 homers in 53 games this year. He's gone 14-40 with 3 homers in his last 9 games before being called up. We know the power's there.
Right.
The defense, I've seen some highlights. It seems like he can handle his own. I don't think he's ever going to be a gold glove winner from what we have seen. But hey, there's plenty of time to get better at the hot corner. And he's not being brought up for defense. He's being brought up for, hey, can you mash the baseball? So hopefully he does that. But Kevin, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Does this move the needle at all for you in terms of this team being a contender? Because on Monday, I put out and on my takeaway saying, I don't think this 2024 team is a playoff contending team. I'm off the boat, of the bus, of the bandwagon. I don't think they're going to make it. You agreed with me. Does this change anything for you because the call-up comes on August 13th?
I would say it moves the needle ever so slightly, but just calling up Junior Caminero doesn't make the team go from 500 to, at the end of the season, 8 to 10 games over 500, which is probably what it's going to take to squeeze into the playoffs. But it's a feel-good moment. It's a good storyline, and we hope that he builds some momentum the rest of this season and going into next season. If anything, it's a confidence builder for 2025, and maybe it gets our heads out of the sand in regards to the fire sale that recently happened. Look, even with Caminero, this offense is still going to struggle mightily. You're talking about 28th in all of baseball in runs scored, 25th in all of baseball in OPS, 26th in baseball in home runs. And I will say, yes, it is cool that he finally got the call up, because it's been something that we've been talking about for weeks, if not months and we've fielded questions from listeners out there. Hey, when is he going to get that chance again? But I would say it's a little anticlimactic in the sense that he did have a call up already last year in different circumstances, making the jump from AA to the majors and the Rays being in a bind and him doing okay, not lighting the world on fire by any means. And the fact that, if this team had kept a lot of their core players and they were in a spot of, hey, we're knee deep in the wild card race. We're 1 game out, 2 games out. We're second or third in the wild card rankings, that this would really, really uplift things. But right now, I mean, I just feel, quite frankly, dejected as a Rays fan. We're at the point of the season where, outside of watching, I guess, Caminero now, there's really, to me, no point in watching every single inning of every Rays game from now until the end of September, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is.
It should be an energizer for the fan base, just like Liquid IV is an energizer for you and your body. It's really quite simple, guys. You tear it up, you pour it, you live more, 1 stick, 16 ounces of water, and it hydrates you better than water alone. And this summer, you can try the flavor called Popsicle Firecracker, which is a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors. In fact, they even have an pina colada lemon lime flavor. So you have it all. So no more thirsty summers. When you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV, you can get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. How simple is that code? MLB. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com.
We also want to tell you about Prize Picks. Baseball season is moving right along, and you can make some cash maybe on junior performances over on Prize Picks, whether it's stolen bases, home runs, or hits. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. With how maybe well that junior plays baseball, you can turn $10 into $100 with just a few taps. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, it's really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit them in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous, I say, selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. So get in on the action with Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB, for a first deposit match up to $100. So good, I'll repeat it again. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for an up to $100 match on your first deposit. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy.
You know, when you talked about energizing the fandom, it should. I don't think it's going to unless you're a diehard fan. If you're a diehard fan, which if you're listening to Locked On Rays after 10 minutes, you're a Locked On Rays fan and a Tampa Bay Rays fan. Okay. So you're excited about Junior Caminero coming up, and that's great. But I agree with you. It doesn't move this team from a non-playoff team to they're certainly going to a play. Not even Shohei Ohtani plus Mike Trout can do that. BT.
Yeah, not in that amount of time. Maybe if the Rays are 500 at the end of April, then both those guys could pull them through. But I guess in a good sense or a unique sense is that Junior Caminero probably shouldn't have this pressure on him of being the savior because there's really nothing to save at the end of the season. Whereas if the Rays were 1-2 points out of the wild card chase, then it's like, all right, buddy, you better step up and make damage here. Where really, I think he's a lot like these other young players of the Rays are going to give him a long leash to see what he can prove this year and do what he can in spring training next year and maybe make a really, really strong impact. And I'll say this, I know we don't really want to mention now who shall not be named as often as we want to anymore, Wander Franco, of course, but I would say that any prospect call-up post Wander Franco doesn't quite have the allure because there was so much that surrounded his call-up that everything else is like a side dish to me, even if Junior's the #1 or #2 prospect in all of baseball.
Not only side dish, but unfortunately, Wander has tainted a lot of that. At least for me, and I think for a lot of fans too. Maybe if you're listening, you don't feel this way, and that's fine. Like we all have our different ways of feeling about it, but it does. I was at that game because of Wander Franco. I went to that game to see his debut. I saw that 3-run shot to tie the game against the Red Sox. I applauded him. I gave him a standing ovation, which the stadium did. Like after seeing that and living through that, and then now what has happened with Wander Franco, it does kind of give you some weariness before just crowning another guy. And I see this on social media a lot right now. Like people are excited, and I get it. I get why they're excited, and they should be excited because, as we said in the first segment, there hasn't been a lot to be excited about as a Rays fan. So I get it, but I would just caution people to just with the social media posts and like, oh, he's him and all that. Like,
let's let him do it first before we anoint him as the cool kids like to say. And here's the thing too, I feel like in every case is different here, but with the contraction of the minor leagues, guys are getting pushed up to the major quicker. There's never been a larger gulf between the talent at AAA in the majors. And I think that's why you're starting to see guys, when they get that call up to the show, no matter if they're the number 1 or number 8 or number 14 ranked prospect, they struggle oftentimes. The hitters, look at Kyle Manzardo. I know not necessarily totally comparable to Junior Caminero, but Jackson Holiday, he's pretty comparable, and he struggled in his first run through. And I know this will be Junior's second run through, but it's still very early on, and you have to realize there's going to be some ups and downs. But I can guarantee you this, when he does make contact, he's going to hit it hard, and he's going to hit it far. And that's going to be an exciting thing to watch, because the Rays need more of those types of players, frankly.
Because they have none of those players.
Yeah.
Because they don't have power hitters. So yeah, Junior is going to be a breath of fresh air in that clubhouse. Hopefully he's a good guy. We haven't heard anything to the contrary. And it's also a jolt of energy for the clubhouse too. Hey, this kid can kind of give us something, a lift. I don't think he's coming in as a savior. I think, like, I agree with what you said. This might be the easiest, softest introduction to MLB, because I know that he was called up last year. He had 8 games, hit 235 with like a homer. Like, you know, it was basically a week, and then 2 at-bats in the playoffs, 1 as a pinch hitter.
Right.
Essentially. So
there was nothing memorable or remarkable about what he did last season in a major league uniform.
No, there wasn't. And that's really 98% of that is due to the small sample size. So you're going to be able to see him. Now, I did say this on Tuesday's episode. The fact that they're calling him on August 13th, it means that the rookie eligibility is out the window by the time that this season is over, either by days of service time in a major league roster or by at-bats / plate appearances. It's just going to be done because it's too early in the season for him to not kind of capitulate on both fronts, where you could eliminate your rookie eligibility for the next year. So the Rays are not going to be able to capitalize on that prize of him possibly winning the Rookie of the Year next year by being on the opening day roster with that new stipulation from the CBA negotiations that happened after the lockout, or while doing the lockout. Right. So having said that, we put up a poll on Twitter, and we haven't talked about this personally. So I'll bring it up again for folks that didn't see it. What would you rather have? A season where now, like in 2024, you just let it burn and see young guys play, see mistakes, see a September spring training, or you try to keep some faith and maybe hope that there's some magic and you can hopefully get above 500 and maybe something happens. Most of the people on Twitter, around 58%, said let it burn. On YouTube, with 20 fewer votes, more people said burn, baby, burn, and 33% said there's still a chance. Kevin, where do you rank on this?
I rate on the let it burn, let it burn. Let the young kids play and figure it out and see who you want to stick with in the future. And frankly, maybe 44 games or however many starts a pitcher makes or appearances isn't enough, but it should at least be a decent gauge and a trampoline to figure out who can cut it and who can't. Is Curtis Mead in the future plans? Is Jonathan Aranda in the future plans? Is X, Y, and Z in the future plans? And those are big considerations to think about.
Does this call up mean that the Rays are not doing burn, baby, burn? Because Curtis Mead, like you said, is getting the boot back to AAA. Do they think that there is still a possible chance that they could somehow, some way, put enough wins in a row? Some teams could get cold and they could sneak in. Is that what this call up is saying?
I mean, it could be, but maybe they just have so little confidence in Curtis Mead of him not being a part of the future plans. Like, let's go ahead and give Junior some reps and see what he can do. And maybe it's also a little bit of something of, hey, there's really nothing else for him to prove in the minors, in AAA, and not like you're stunting his development, but maybe he got to a point, or he would get to a point if you just leave him simmering there, of he gets stagnant.
Yes.
Whereas a guy like Curtis Mead or somebody else, there might be verifiable items that they need to work on and figure out.
And we've heard of that being a thing when guys have shown, hey, I'm ready for the next step, and the organization doesn't move them up timely, they kind of lose motivation. I mean, and I know that they shouldn't, but they're human beings, and you don't want them to lose motivation. But again, they're human beings. They're not Excel points on a spreadsheet. And so you got to be careful with that. You got to manage that human being. You got to manage those expectations.
Yeah.
From everything that we have heard, the Rays do have a clear channel of communication with what they're expecting from the players and what kind of timeline they have. But you said something very interesting then with Curtis Mead. This could point out to a situation where Curtis Mead might not be.
He could get traded to the Marlins. He could get the Vidal Brujan treatment, the Xavier Edwards treatment.
Which, by the way, Xavier Edwards, good for you, buddy. You're doing awesome, and Vidal Brujan doing way better than Taylor Walls offensively. Yes. So look at that. With enough playing time, the Rays could be pointing out to that being the case with Curtis Mead, which would suck. I mean, I don't think it's a secret that we enjoy Curtis Mead. He's been on the show a couple of times, so it would be a shame. But I don't know what to make of it. I really don't.
Yeah, and look, I know the Rays don't think like this and necessarily care about what the Rays fan base thinks. They're trying to do what's best for the organization, but I feel like at some point you also have to say, hey, we got rid of Eflin, we got rid of Randy, we got rid of other notable figures. Let's uplift our fans a little bit with a move in this situation. So,
and that's called goodwill in business, right? You gain some clientele, you gain something from having goodwill, and you also gain something, Kevin, if you go to Ibotta.
You do gain something if you go to Ibotta, and that is because Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Did you know the average Ibotta user earns $256 per year? That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Join the over 50 million users and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including all your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and beyond. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying it by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. So good, I'll repeat it again. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB.
Passion, patience, drive. No, those are not Stu Sternberg's keys to success. They're eBay Motors' formula for winning championships. Guess what? eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and much, much more. eBay Motors has got you covered. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your Kevin Cash money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the Junior Caminero and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers.
All right. Continuing on the Junior Caminero topic, Ulises, you mentioned a podium of the Olympics variety. I want another podium from you. Most anticipated Rays prospect call-ups of all time, what would be your podium, and would Junior be on that podium?
I think Junior would be fighting for third place again.
Okay.
I think, like we said earlier, Wander Franco takes gold. I don't think we'll ever see another standing ovation for a guy who has never stepped up to the plate in MLB. Like that was crazy. That was crazy. And we even mentioned it. Wasn't that crazy? Wasn't that nuts? So yeah, we're not going to see that again.
Mm-hmm.
And I would give silver, of course, to Evan Michael Longoria,
right?
Because I think at that time prospects weren't as heavily marketed as they are today. I mean,
right.
the means of doing so were very difficult. And even so, Longoria's name was popping throughout the fandom. And obviously,
he was on ESPN, he was on magazines, and you had the added bonus of the Rays for the first time in their franchise history were competitive and going somewhere in 2008. And his last name, Evan Longoria, there's a whole gameplay involved with that. It all helped, and that was basically the first time that you could say that the Rays arrived and were in the public stratosphere for a good reason. Good reasons.
I would like to know what people would think if we were to put a podium poll on these prospects. What do you think people would do? Do we have that on here?
Yeah, we do have that. So just so I'm correct, so you have Wander, Evan, and then bronze goes to Caminero or somebody else, or it's a tie for.
I would put Junior just because of the fact that in 2024 we have so much more material and avenues to get prospect videos, highlights, anything and all that.
Okay, that's fair. People could also make a case for David Price, Blake Snell, Jeremy Hellickson, and so on. But we did put it out on the X machine. Who is the most anticipated prospect call-up in Rays baseball history? 71% say Wander, 20% say Longoria, 6% David Price, 3% other, i.e. Caminero. And hitting on a couple of comments, Brett says it's Wander and not close. What a shame. Suzanne says, I still miss Wander. Jake Stokes says, unfortunately, it's Wander, MLB's number one prospect multiple years in a row. Chris says, Jeremy Hellickson, still to this day, the only night I ever, quote unquote, called out of work. Tampa Bay Invasion. Okay. Wander's leading the poll here. I am not going to read that second part of that sentence, although it is comical. And then Roman Rodriguez says, Longo, because he was the first real first rounder that had promise. He was the doorway to our current success. Very true. And that's the other thing, too, about David Price is I feel like his call-up was pretty highly anticipated for obvious reasons, but the fact that he was the number one overall pick in the 2007 draft out of a powerhouse like Vanderbilt, and it was like throughout what I remember throughout the entire course of the season as the Rays were having the success they were of like, when's the point they're going to make the move and bring up David Price? And they ultimately did near the end of the season for the World Series run and got a couple bit of action in the regular season, which he was remarkable in when he made his debut. And he was, hey, lefty throwing 98, 99. That stands out in multiple forms and fashion.
100%. And then he ends up being a part of that World Series run. He will forever be cemented in that Game 7 ALCS final out. David Price, I think, is a tremendous choice for that podium. Hellickson as well. Very good. I will throw one more in before we get out of here. Matt Moore.
Yes, that was a notable name as well. That was 2011?
I think.
Yeah, and I feel like the, evolution of the smartphone and high-speed internet and more of the cottage industry of prospects and covering them, there was a lot of talk about Matt Moore, of course.
And then he comes out firing in Yankee Stadium and like in 5 innings, I think, shutout innings and strikes out 10, something like that. Yes. It's crazy. So very, very cool. Good stuff.
And let's also remember that the Rays acquired Junior Caminero from the Guardians for Tobias Myers.
Nice.
Myers is actually doing very, very well, like unbelievably well for the Brewers right now. So we'll see who gets the better end of that stick, but just wanted to throw that out as a reminder. In the meantime, that will wrap up this edition of Locked On Rays. Thanks as always for making us your first listen every day. Make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast with our buddy Sully. Always a good listen there. He's got some jokes and one-liners that you got to check out. All right. That'll do it for us. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you tomorrow.